my Gregorius, my Gregorius in our hearts. My Gregorius, my Gregorius, my Gregorius in our heart. Of educational excellence, pride and knowledge with exuberance, grant to wisdom, Lord, the preeminence with grace and benevolence. Let it shine, the glory of God. Let it shine, let it shine. Shine our aim, God ignite the spirit of victory, proclaim. Bless our mentors, the true inspirations, full try young minds to aspirations. My Gregorius, in you I take pride. Your light of knowledge in me is light. Strengthen my spirits to take a stride into thy values that I humbly abide. Let it shine, let it shine, the glory of God. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, the reign of my glorious shine. Let it shine. The glory of God, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. The reign of my Gregorius shine. My Gregorius, my Gregorius, my Gregorius in our hearts. My Gregorius, my Gregorius, my Gregorius in our heart. Of educational excellence, pride and knowledge with exuberance, grant to wisdom, Lord, the preeminence with grace and benevolence. Let it shine, the glory of God. Let it shine, let it shine. Shine our aim, God ignite the spirit of victory, proclaim. Bless our mentors, the true inspirations, full try young minds to aspirations. My Gregorius, in you I take pride. Your light of knowledge in me source of true inspiration. So giant minds to aspirations. My Gregorius, in you I take pride. Your light of knowledge in me is light. Strengthen my spirits to take a stride into thy values that I humbly abide. Let it shine, let it shine. The glory of God, let it shine, let it shine.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can we check the presentation, ma'am?
Gregorius
Yeah, sure.
Margaret.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You'll be presenting it right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you see my screen, ma'am? Is it visible to you?
Yes, ma'am. The screen is
Yes, ma'am.
visible.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can we start? Or are we waiting for people to join?
Yes, ma'am. Yesterday, there were around 100 participants. Today, only 50 have turned up. So
Okay.
we thought we'll wait for some time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe 3 more minutes, not more than that, ma'am. By 6:05, we'll start.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, dear participants. I welcome you all to the second day session of Faculty Development Program. Prayer is a thought, a belief, a feeling arising with the mind of the one praying. We shall begin the session with a prayer song. Now, Karsi ma'am? Yes.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing your holy name.
The soul should always stand ajar, ready to welcome the ecstatic experience. I now request Professor Chandravardhana, Department of English, to deliver the welcome address.
Respected Principal and Secretary in absence, Honorable Chief Guest, members of staffs and participants, good evening to one and all present here. I am glad to have you all for today's session. I welcome you for today's webinar. Um, I welcome our Chief Guest, Dr. A. Priya, Assistant Professor of English, Holy Cross College, Trichy. She has been served as a professor from June 2009 till now. She has awarded so many medals and awards. She has received a special award for the Shepherd, and she has received a gold medal in the Part 2 language, Tamil. And she has cleared her set in 2012, and she has cleared her net in 2019. And she has written e-content and developed on the literary. And she has developed an e-content on a tiger for a Malgudi. And she also has presented papers, a publication, and she has been a resource person on the heart of writing, and too many of papers he has published. I welcome all you for this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your very warm welcome. Now, I request all the members of staff and the participants to switch on your video so that we'll have a short clip. I request all the participants and the members of staff to switch on you. Yes. I request Chandra ma'am to take the photo, capture the photo. Ma'am, shall we move on to the session?
Yes, ma'am. Ashmi.
Yes. Okay, ma'am. I invite Dr. Priya, Assistant Professor of English, the chief guest of today's sessions, to take over the session.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Happy evening.
Thank you for the response.
Good evening, ma'am.
Actually, when it comes to online webinars, it is always monotonous. Yes, so but here we have vibrant participants. Thank you for your response. Today we are going to deal with a topic which is really very much relevant for today's world. Hope you agree with that. I'm going to deal with subaltern echoes in Indian English fiction. Of course, it is prevalent. It is a prevalent condition in Indian fiction as well as the entire world, we could say nowadays, right? So the war that is taking place and the group of people who are migrating from one place to another. So it is very much relevant to today's topic. Hope you can hear me, all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank,
ma'am.
Yes.
thank you. So before we move on to the presentation, I just want to ask one question to every one of you. Have you ever felt that you are a subaltern? Can you just answer? Have you ever felt in any of the place you go to? Take it. It can be your house. It can be your workplace, right? So, can you just tell me? Have you ever felt that you are a subaltern? Have you ever been a subordinate to someone? Yes. Can you just give an example for being a subaltern? Hope it is known to all the faculty what is mean by subaltern, right? Can you just give me an insight of being a subaltern? Can anyone? Of course, if you have uh, siblings, your brothers at home, yes, many of you might have brothers at home, right? So when a girl child is born with a boy, okay, we usually feel that we are the subalterns, right? In Indian context, we could say, though the situation is changing slowly, but we cannot deny the fact that we feel us a subaltern even in our own family, right? So usually the breadwinner of the family is always a male in the family, right? So a woman's income is actually um, treated as or her role, a woman's role in a family is insignificant one. Still, no, you cannot deny that. Though we are all working women, you cannot deny that, right? So we feel being okay. We feel being subordinated by someone, either in workplace or in home also, right? So many of
Yes,
you, yeah. Thank you for the
yes,
response.
ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm Dr. KV Lakshmi from Hyderabad. I hailed from such background, madam, not relating to my parents,
Okay.
but relating to my grandparents. I hailed such type of background only, madam. From that type of background only.
Yes, ma'am.
Subaltern. Then I faced so many rejections, and after that I stood as a professor, madam, because of them only. I'm very
Hats off,
grateful to
ma'am.
them.
Hats off to you.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
yeah,
You
ma'am.
have, yeah, you have kickstarted the program actually now. Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, so it's a wonderful start. Okay. So who's a subaltern? Can anyone say who's a subaltern or what is subaltern literature?
Subaltern means having lower status, ma'am. Means like discrimination, having lower status.
Yeah.
Means power means importance is less.
Yes. Importance is less. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can
Thank
see that, see, wherever we go, there are group of people, those who are marginalized, those who are not given importance uh, in the workplace or at home. You can see people suffer out of being a subaltern. And here, subaltern literature refers to literary works that give voice to marginalized or oppressed groups within society, often highlighting their experiences, struggles, and perspectives. See, if a subaltern is there, there is no one to present, or there is no one to voice out the experiences of subalterns, right? And there is no one to look at the struggles of subaltern. So there comes our subaltern literature, our subaltern studies. Antonio Gramsci gives a beautiful explanation about, or he is the one who coined this term subaltern. He says subalterns are a group of people who are under the hegemony of the ruling elite class, They include peasants, tribes, women, and other groups denied access to get hegemonic power. Okay, they will not be given any hegemonic power within the society or where they live. Okay, so subaltern literature can encompass various forms, including novels, poetry, essays, and autobiographies, and even oral narratives are taken into the category called subaltern literature. These works often challenge dominant narratives and power structures, offering alternative perspectives that have historically been silenced or overlooked. So it gives voice to the voiceless. That you could have come across this, giving voice to the voiceless. Okay, so this term is actually used in post-colonial theory that we all know, and it refers to the individual, an individual or a group of people who are socially, politically, and economically marginalized or subordinate within a broader societal structure. Okay, so how these groups are formed, these subordinating groups are formed in a society. Can anyone throw light upon this? How these social subordinating groups are the subaltern groups are created?
Ma'am, due to the attitudes of the family, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, according to me, it comes from the
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you are audible. You can speak.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can I say the answer now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Ma'am, actually, according to me, it comes from the families only, ma'am. According to the means their attitudes, the way they raise their children, especially family is a basic unit of a society. So that maybe it arises, madam. Means one of the reasons.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So there are
Good
three
evening, ma'am.
situations. Yes, good evening.
Ma'am, good evening. I'm Dr. Lakshmi from Saranathan Engineering College, Trichy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We are
Uh,
the same city.
can I answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Can I answer the question which you
Yes, ma'am. Sure,
posed
ma'am.
us, ma'am?
Sure, ma'am.
Your question was how the subaltern group has formed, right, ma'am? My
Yes.
answer will be the group has been when the subordinate group, that is economically or politically, or in short, they can be called as downtrodden or anything else, wherein they have been suppressed with a particular group of people, wherein that has given them an that has created a agitation, and that has made them to form a group. As my one of my I did my research using with Mulkraj Anand and Madam Bama, Faustina Bama. Actually, Faustina Bama, being a maths teacher, she has penned more than three novels wherein that has been represented from the casteism and the nunneries, what she faced. So these may be the main causes wherein that would have forced people to uh, form a group or to represent their problems.
Thank you, Lakshmi, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you. So here it is generally given there are three situations, okay, that lead to subordinating group. Okay, and these subordinating groups are actually ruled by the dominant group. Okay, so migration is one of the reasons why um, the subordinating social groups are formed. Okay, and another one, emigration that you all know, leaving a country to settle in another, an immigration, coming to a new country as a permanent resident, that also actually forms subordinating groups. And annexation, annexation that we all know, that taking land forcibly, this also, as Lakshmi ma'am told, there occurs a kind of commotion in the society and they form a group. And we have lots of other subordinating social groups, racial groups, okay, socially set apart because of obvious physical differences. Differences not often clear. See, people those who are marginalized by the physical conditions like being being black, okay, so this is how racial groups, subordinating groups are formed. And there are ethnic groups that are set apart because of their national origin or distinctive cultural patterns. So we can see in the kite runner how the two ethnic groups fight with each other, and one ethnic group is treated as their subordinates. So it is everywhere, not only in India but also uh, all through the world. We can see that one ethnic group is being suppressed by another ethnic group. They call it ethnic supremacy, right? So there is another group of people, those who follow a particular religion, and they will be subordinated, or they'll be treated as subalterns by the religious group, a group of people, those who have, those who are big in number, right? They will treat the people those who are less in number, those who follow other religion. That is also there. And we have gender groups. Males, as we all know, they are the center of the society. So when the male uh, um, dominant society is there, then females are treated as their subordinates. That you know, and other subordinating groups are also there. We have age, we have disabilities in people, we have sexual differences, right? Even the transgenders are called the subordinating social group. So this is how we form social subordinating groups. um, and there are consequences for being a subordinate, okay, when a group of people are subordinated or being treated as subalterns. These are the consequences we face in day-to-day life. The one first one is extermination. uh, because of extermination, there happens genocide, right? Genocide or the deliberate systematic killing of an entire people or nation. What happened in Sri Lanka? Killing of a mass of Tamilians in Sri Lanka. That is also one of the examples of genocide. So extermination. We try to exterminate or kill entire group, and a group, an ethnic group, okay, in order to just rule over them. And we have expulsion, which they say forcing groups to vacate a geographic area, okay, a group of people being driven out of their homeland. From, even if they are the indigenous group of that particular land, they will be asked to go out of the particular area, particular geographical location, and they will be given a settlement somewhere. For example, what happens in our tribal villages, right? People are driven out of the villages um, just to bring out a particular dam, or when it comes to a construction of dam, or when it comes to a construction of a large estate, people, the indigenous group are driven out of their location and they will be given another settlement. So this is one of the consequences of being a subordinate group. And next comes succession. Okay, the political partitioning of a country when groups choose to create a separate country. That recently we have been speaking about Tamil Nadu becoming a new nation. Okay, though it is not formed, thankfully. But this happens when a group of people are ignored. When a group of people or a particular people, those who are living in a particular region, are being ignored. This happens. or when these people are not given prominence in the society or significance in the society, they will try to exclude themselves from the mainstream of the society. So we form a subordinating group. And next comes segregation. Segregation, it can happen in physical separation of two groups, often imposed on a subordinate group by dominant group. Okay, so when Dalits are not allowed inside the villages, they will be given a settlement at the outskirts of the villages, and they will not be allowed to come into the main regions, main geographical locations of a particular village. Then it is called a segregation. Okay, and the other consequences are also there. There comes fusion. So far we have seen how people are just dislocated from their mainstream. Now it comes to fusion. When it comes to fusion, a minority and majority group combining to form a new group with the characteristics of the initial groups. So when um, this partition happened, right, between India and Pakistan, the people, the Hindus, those who lived in Pakistan, they were asked to convert themselves into Islam. The same way it happened in India when people were not ready to leave India. I mean, they were asked to convert themselves into Hinduism, right? So this is called fusion. So a minority group are being forced by the majority to follow their culture. So this happens, and assimilation also happens, in which it is a process by which a subordinate individual or group takes on the characteristics of the dominant group. Okay, this also happens in post-colonial world, or even in uh, the various parts of other countries too. And we have the pluralistic perspective. Okay, so we come to a conclusion that we don't want to fight anymore. Okay, you be there in your spot and I will be in my spot, and let us live in unity. We come to such conclusions, and that is called pluralistic perspective. That is mutual respect between the various groups in a society for one another's cultures, allowing minorities to express their own culture without experiencing prejudice or hostility. So there comes the question. See, if I assimilate, if I follow the custom of a majority, okay, then who am I? There comes the question, who am I? Okay, so now you can see people, girls, cutting their hair short and becoming tomboyish, right? So whether you can't question why she is doing like that. Okay, when girls behave in such a way, they say they are uh, comfortable to look like a male. So then the question arises, who am I? Okay, right? So at larger level, you can see pan ethnicity happens, that is, the development of solidarity between ethnic subgroups as reflected in the terms of Hispanic and Asian Americans. Okay, so they follow this kind of pan ethnicity, and marginality also happens, the status of being between two cultures. Okay, see, if I go and settle down in America, then I start to assimilate uh, the culture of America, and I am torn in between these two culture, where I was born and brought up and where I live. So this marginality also happens. This is one of the consequences of being a subordinate group, and I adopt this double consciousness. Okay, so whether am I an Indian or an American? This question arises when I'm being a subaltern. So now we come to an important concept. Um, Actually, when Antonio Gramsci introduced this particular subaltern, the term subaltern, In his writings on hegemony, cultural production, and revolutionary theory, Gramsci refers to subordinating groups within society who are marginalized, oppressed, and excluded from positions of power and authority. And here we'll discuss about some few key concepts of Gramsci's concept of the subaltern. Gramsci's understanding of the subaltern encompasses various marginalized and oppressed social groups, including peasants, workers, women, ethnic minorities, and colonized people. These groups are typically excluded from the dominant structures of political, economic, and cultural power within the society. See, when women were not allowed to take part in election, they are excluded from the politics. Okay, when women and their income are not treated significantly in a family, then of course they are excluded from the economical group of a particular society. When women are not allowed to take part in a festival that happens in a village, then they are culturally marginalized, they are culturally excluded. So he talks about the subordinating social groups, and Gramsci emphasizes that subaltern's position of subordination is not merely a result of individual circumstances or choices, but is deeply rooted in structural inequalities within the society that we spoke already. A female is being treated as a subordinate to the male in the family. So these inequalities are upheld and reinforced through systems of domination such as capitalism, imperialism, patriarchy, and colonialism. And he talks about historic specificity also. Okay, so Gramsci's concept of subaltern is historically situated, recognizing that the experiences and struggles of subordinate groups are shaped by specific historical, social, and economic context. He highlights the importance of understanding the concrete conditions under which subaltern group exist and resist oppression. They try to resist. See, when we try to um, uh, swim against the current, right, there comes uh, rebellion, right? Rebel. We become rebel. So he says, see, a group of people, they are actually when they become subaltern, they are not only uh, uh, treated as subaltern in a society, but historically they are subalterns. Okay, how the dominant narrative techniques of the Europeans, they try to portray the black as deceased, the black as animals, right? So they are historically portrayed as subalterns. And he talks about cultural hegemony also. Gramsci's notion of the subaltern is closely linked to his theory of cultural hegemony, which refers to the dominance of ruling class ideology and values in shaping the beliefs, norms, and practices of society. So, subaltern groups are often subjected to cultural hegemony, which serves to maintain their subordination and justify existing power and relations. And he talks about elaborately on the agency and resistance of the subaltern groups. Okay, so these subalterns, despite their marginalized status, of course, he acknowledges that subaltern groups possess agency and are capable of engaging in forms of resistance and counter hegemonic struggles. Of course, they struggle a lot to come out of the oppression. He emphasizes the importance of building alliances, organizing collective action, and developing counter hegemonic narratives as strategies for challenging and transforming oppressive structures. See, this building alliances and organizing collective action. Okay, all the self help group that is formed by our women in the rural part of India, especially in Tamil Nadu, you can call it as organizing collective action. Their uh, they try to uphold, or they try to assert their identity through these groups, right? So we can see it in our own villages also. So this is what Gramsci speaks about when he talks when he focuses on the subalterns. So, overall, Gramsci's concept of the subaltern provides a framework for understanding the experiences, struggles, and agency of marginalized and oppressed groups within society. It underscores the need to center the perspectives. We need to center the perspectives. See, so far, subalterns are at the margin of the uh, mainstream, right? They were not allowed, or they were not treated as a part of the society. They were at the margins. So he calls for centering the perspectives of of the subalterns and voices of the subaltern in analysis of power and inequality. When we try to analyze the power and inequality, let us include the subordinating groups also. That is what Gramsci tried to say, and which is elaborately spoken by Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti in her essay titled Can the Subaltern Speak? Okay, so Can the Subaltern Speak is actually an influential essay by Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti. She is a post-colonial theorist that you know, and a literary critic. It is actually originally published in 1988. This essay actually examines the question of whether marginalized and oppressed groups known as the subaltern have the ability to articulate their own experiences. She questions, see, why do you talk about the marginalized always? Let them come to the mainstream and let them talk about their pain. That's what Gayatri Spivak focuses on in her essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Okay, so she questions whether the marginalized and the oppressed groups known as the subaltern have the ability to articulate their own experiences and concerns within the dominant discourse. Okay, within the dominant discourses of power. She questions whether we have the ability to speak louder, okay, against the dominant society, dominant group. She questions, okay. And in her essay, she begins critiquing the works of dominant Western theoreticians such as Michel Foucault and Jacques Derrida, who analyze power dynamics but often overlook. What do? They overlook the voices of those who are silenced and marginalized by these power structures. Okay, say so they don't include the voices of the marginalized, but she calls out the people, the group of theoreticians to just to look at the dynamics, okay, dynamism that is there in the voices of the suppressed. Okay, she introduces the concept of the subaltern, drawing from the writings of Antonio Gramsci that we all know, to refer to groups of people who are socially, politically, and economically oppressed, such as women, peasants, and colonized, that we discussed already. Okay, but the central question Spivak poses is whether the subaltern can articulate. That also we dealt with. Okay, so or if their voices are always already meditated or silenced. She questions whether the marginalized can speak or not. And also, she questions, okay, maybe they may be speaking, but their voices are silenced already by the structures of power. Yes, see, when we are sent to a forest, okay, and you shout from there, can you be heard? Can we hear the voice from the wilderness? Of course, it can be
No.
heard by the trees and birds, but not by the people, those who are in the mainstream, right? So this is what she questions. Maybe they are speaking already, right? But are they silenced? Are they silenced by the structures of the power? That's what she questions. Okay, and she argues that even when the subaltern attempts to speak, their voices are often co-opted. Okay, co-opted, misrepresented, or suppressed by dominant groups. See, even if they speak, they are actually, see, we could have seen, you could have seen in news, right? When a group of local people are interviewed, they will be speaking like they do not know how to speak. Okay, so this is what you have to speak. This will be dictated by a group of people, and the lady, uh, an elderly a lady or a person who comes to interview, she or he speaks as dictated by the media or by their group. Okay, so you can see this happens in uh, the subaltern's life also. They are co-opted. Okay, they are misrepresented by the dominant group, that you know, right? In many situations you could have seen, and even the portrayal of women in media, everywhere you can see this co-opting technique happens. Okay, there it is adopted. Actually, it doesn't happen, it is adopted by many social group and also the media as well. Okay, so this leads to a paradox actually, where the subaltern are both spoken for and yet unable to fully articulate their own subjectivity. See, I may want to say something, but when the subaltern is dictated by a dominant group, what will happen? I'll have to speak only what is dictated, right? Do you understand what I'm telling? See, when I'm asked to give an interview on a particular topic, only if I am allowed to speak only few things, then I will not be able to express my opinions on that, right? So this is what happens in the lives of the subalterns. So Spivak discusses the case study of the Indian widow in her essay, examining how colonial and patriarchal structures shape and constrain her agency and voice. So it is constrained. Okay, it is constrained. The agency of a woman or a widow is constrained by the dominant group. She highlights the complexities of representing the subaltern, actually, emphasizing the need for scholars and activists to engage in self reflexive and ethical practices that prioritize the voices and agencies of marginalized groups. So, as scholars, what we need to do? We need to engage in self-reflexive and ethical practices that prioritizes the voices and agency of marginalized group. Come on, you have to talk about um, the self-reflexive and ethical practices of prioritizing the voices. Okay, this is what we need to practice in our discourse. That's what she expects from the scholars. And ultimately, Spivak's essay challenges scholars and activists to critically interrogate their own positions of power and privilege and to work towards creating spaces for the subaltern to speak for themselves. Okay, and she emphasizes the importance of listening to and amplifying the voices. Maybe they are speaking in a very feeble tone. Okay, they may be very, very feeble in expressing their agony. When a woman works all day long with a male, okay, in a construction, uh, in a building, okay, she is given less, um, she is given less amount as her salary, right? So she is not given the handsome salary as received by her male counterpart. Okay, so come on, she might be suffering out of it. She might be saying something in a feeble tone, but it is our duty, the scholar's duty, to amplify the voices of marginalized communities rather than speaking on their behalf. See, you need not to speak on their behalf. Let them speak. That's what Spivak argues. Okay, let them speak. Don't speak on behalf of the marginalized. Let them come into the center and let them express their agony. Maybe you can help them to amplify their voice. That's what she says. And she begs the scholars not to reduce the agony through their narrative. Actually, they undergo a lot of struggle, but please don't reduce the pain in your narratives. That's what she says. Okay, so hello. Can excuse hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
you're audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So we were discussing about Spivak, right? Gayatri Spivak's Can the Subaltern Speak? Um, when she talks about the marginalized and the suppression of their voice, she gives few complexities in understanding the subaltern. The first one is epistemological challenges. Spivak argues that the very act of representing the subaltern poses epistemological challenges because dominant discourses are often shaped by colonial, patriarchal, and Eurocentric perspectives. What happens? As a result, attempts to represent the subaltern may inadvertently reproduce existing power structures and perpetuate forms of domination in silencing. See, when Eurocentric perspective comes, the other part of the world becomes silent, right? So the same thing happens in our society when the dominant group is at the center of the society, the Dalits are silenced. Okay, when even if they try to speak out, okay, they will not be allowed. So it paves the way for perpetual domination. They say it cannot be eradicated. Perpetual. It is there always in the. It is always there in the society. So we successfully silence the subaltern. That's what she says. It is one of the complexities. Okay, we need to understand. She says, and the next one, the problem of voice. Okay, Spivak questions whether the subaltern can speak within dominant discourse or if their voices are already meditated at silence, that we discussed already. Okay, so as we discussed, their voice is co-opted, misrepresented, or suppressed by dominant groups, and they treat subaltern as other, right? Other being the other. Spivak examines how the subaltern is often constructed as the other within dominant discourses. What is othering? Can anyone throw light on this othering, the concept called other? Okay, so in a in the yes, is there anyone being the See, being the other is, take for example, if the colonizers are there, we are treated as the other, right? When a male is there in a family, the women are treated as other. We are not included. We are not included in the mainstream. That is why we are called the other. And she discusses about the binary oppositions between the colonizer and the colonized, the ruler and the ruled, the center and the periphery. Okay, this othering of the subaltern serves to marginalize and exclude them from the positions of power and authority. When it comes to a village, the Dalits are not included in any of the conversation or any of the discourse that takes place in the village, right? They were allowed only to stay at the periphery, only at the margin of the villages. And we have colonial, she concentrates on colonial discourses also in her essay. um, she says, she explores how colonial discourses construct and regulate the identities of colonized people, shaping their subjectivities and limiting their ability to articulate their own experiences and demands. So, colonial representations often essentialize and stereotype the subaltern, reducing them to a passive objects. We are treated only as objects, okay, objects of knowledge. We are there to be educated, and the colonized, they are there to educate us. That is what popularly believed. Okay, so we become the passive objects of knowledge rather than active agents with their own histories and perspectives. Even the Indian history is not written by the Indians. That's what she speaks about in her essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? And she concentrates on the ethical dilemma in her essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Okay, she grapples with the ethical dilemmas inherent in representing the subaltern, particularly the risk of speaking on behalf of others without their consent or understanding the complexities of their lived experiences. See, a man cannot speak about the labor pain that a woman undergoes, right? That you accept, right? So, when the dominant group represents the subaltern, it cannot be a real portrayal of the pain that is there in their heart. That's what she argues through this ethical dilemma. Okay, and she emphasizes the importance of self reflexivity and ethical engagement in representing marginalized groups, urging scholars and activists to critically interrogate their own positions of power and privilege. And she widely talks about the agency also in her essay. So let's move on to the um, okay, these are the impacts of being a subaltern that you know. We internalize oppression. We internalize oppression. Many Indian English novels depict characters. Yes.
अलीशु की बर्थडे है आज। कहाँ है अलीशु? हाँ, फिर क्या करें केक
Excuse
में?
me, ma'am. Nazreen, ma'am, can you mute yourself, ma'am? Nazreen, ma'am. Nazreen Begum. Can you please mute yourself? Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I have given a list of impacts of being a subaltern, um, that is focused by many Indian English writers. Okay, so many Indian English novels depict characters who have internalized the oppressive attitudes and beliefs of the dominant caste, class, or gender hierarchy. These characters often struggle with feelings of inferiority, shame, and self doubt as a result of societal discrimination. For example, Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things explores the internalized oppression experienced by characters like Veluta, an untouchable, okay, and Ammu, a woman from a lower caste background. And we have identity crisis, okay, because of the um, oppression, identity crisis also arise. Subaltern characters in Indian fiction often grapple with identity crisis as they navigate the complexities of belonging to multiple marginalized groups. This can include conflicts between traditional culture norms and modern aspirations, as well as struggles with the questions of self worth and acceptance. In Jumpal agrees, the namesake, you could have read, for example, the protagonist Gokul, right, experiences an identity crisis as he reconciles his Indian heritage with his American upbringing. So, here comes the identity crisis, whether he is an American or an Indian. He is torn between, hmm, the protagonist is torn between being an Indian and also being drawn towards the American culture. So identity crisis arises because of uh, oppression or being marginalized. And we have trauma and mental health issues that are portrayed in Indian English fiction. The subaltern characters frequently experience trauma and mental health issues as a result of systematic oppression, violence, and marginalization. This trauma can manifest in various ways that you could have seen, including anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and substance abuse. Okay, uh, the best example for this trauma and mental health issues is Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children. It portrays the psychological impact of colonialism on its characters who wrestles with the legacy of violence and displacement. And we have resistance and resilience. See, are we always victimized? Or the subalterns, do they try to come out of the shell? So this is also discussed in various novels of um, Indian literature. Okay, so despite the psychological challenges they face, subaltern characters in Indian English fiction often demonstrate resilience and resistance. You could have seen many women characters fighting against the old norms and coming out with colorful wings, right? So you could have read. Um, so they demonstrate resilience and resistance in the face of adversity. They may find strength in their cultural heritage, community ties, or acts of defiance against oppressive systems. In Rohinton Mystery, for example, you can see Rohinton Mysteries a fine balance. Okay, characters from marginalized backgrounds demonstrate resilience and solidarity as they navigate the social economic injustice of 1970s in India. Okay, for example, characters like Diana, a widowed seamstress, okay, and Ishwar and Om Prakash. These are the three characters focused by Rohinton Mystery in his A Fine Balance. Om Prakash and Ishwar, they are two untouchable tailors. Okay, they demonstrate resilience as they confront various challenges, including economic hardship. They face economic hardship, and they are in situation where social stigmas are there and political violence. Okay, so despite facing discrimination and exploitation, they find ways to assert their humanity, dignity. They not only assert their humanity, they also assert their dignity, and they assert their agency. Okay, so their resilience lies in their ability to adapt, endure. They endure a lot. Okay, they endure the pain that comes out of the oppression, right? And find moments of hope and connection amidst adversity. So um, Rohinton Mysteries, A Fine Balance portray this kind of resistance and resilience. And we have seen many novels which has the theme of quest for agency, that is identity and empowerment. Many subaltern characters in Indian English fiction embark on journeys of self discovery, right? Self discovery. They try to find out who they are, and empowerment. They empower themselves, right? So, seeking to assert their agency and challenge the status quo. These characters may undergo personal transformations as they confront societal expectations and assert their right to self determination. So they may be they may be asked to follow the majority, but they don't want to um, be at the back of somebody. So what they do, they try to assert their identity. You can see in Arvind Adiga's The White Tiger, the protagonist Balram, right? The protagonist Balram struggles against his subaltern status and ultimately seeks empowerment through the acts of rebellion. Okay, so he rebels against the society. He doesn't want to conform to the popular belief of the society. You could have read The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga, right? So several Indian writers have contributed significantly to subaltern literature by focusing on the experiences of and the perspectives of marginalized communities in India. Here we have few notable examples. One is Mahasweta Devi. Okay, so Mahasweta Devi, have you heard of her, Mahasweta Devi? So her works are deeply rooted in the experiences of marginalized communities. Particularly, she is focusing on the struggles and injustice faced by tribal and indigenous people, okay, as well as other oppressed groups in India. Some of the subaltern themes, okay, uh, that are explored by Mahasweta Devi in her writings are tribal rights and displacement, exploitation and marginalization, gender inequality and women's empowerment, cultural identity and resistance, human rights and social injustice. So, Mahasweta Devi's works often depict the exploitation and displacement of tribal communities by powerful external forces such as government policies, corporations, and landlords. She sheds lights on the loss of land. Actually, when the tribals, when a major project comes in a tribal village, these people are taken. Okay, they are driven out of their land. So she focuses on the loss of land of the tribals and their livelihoods and also their cultural heritage. They not only lose their land, okay, by losing their land they lose their cultural heritage also, because even the staple food of the tribals are changed because of their displacement that you could have um, heard of. Okay, so she focuses on the loss of land, livelihoods, and cultural heritage experienced by the individual, by the indigenous people as a result of development projects. Okay, constructing of dams, um, constructing of cottages. You could have seen in the movie, in movies. Okay, where the not only the indigenous people, even the wild animals are driven to the mainstream of the society, right? So it is focused by the loss of land, livelihoods, and cultural heritage. Loss of cultural heritage is focused by Mahasweta Devi in her writings because of the development projects and land acquisitions. And we have the next one, exploitation and marginalization. Okay, so how the ethnic groups or the indigenous people are marginalized, that is also focused by Mahasweta Devi. She exposes the systematic exploitation and marginalization of marginalized communities, including tribals, peasants, and landless laborers, by those in positions of power. So these peasants, tribals are actually um, ill treated by the people those who are in the power. Okay, so she highlights the economic and social and political inequalities that perpetuate their subjugation and deny them basic rights and opportunities. Even in one of her short stories, I think it is Women. Okay, Women is a collection of two short stories, Old Women. In her essay, in her short story Old Woman, she talks about a, a woman, one who collects the darba grass for her livelihood. Okay, though her village is rich in agriculture, though they had lots of lands, and they will be taken away from their hands. So they live in near poverty, and they die of hungry. They die of malnutrition. So many things happen in the tribal village. So these things are focused by Mahasweta Devi in her, even in her short stories. And she focuses on gender inequality and women's empowerment also. Many of her works delve deep into the intersection of gender and caste oppression, particularly focusing on the struggles of Dalit um, and tribal women She portrays the resilience and agency of women who defy social norms and patriarchal structure to assert their rights and challenges. Um, okay, so the women, those who are focused by Mahasweta Devi, they have this courage to fight against the patriarchal structure. Okay, so that you can see in Mahasweta Devi's works, and she focuses on the cultural identity and resistance also. She celebrates the rich cultural heritage. See, these tribal group, right? They are very proud. They are very much proud of being a tribe. That is also focused by Mahasweta. The rich cultural heritage, the rich culture of the tribals, also celebrated by Mahasweta Devi in her works, through her works, and she also depicts their efforts to preserve their identity. See, they Mahasweta Devi actually celebrates the traditions of the tribals, and also she she focuses on how these marginalized people, they try to preserve their identity, how they struggle to preserve their identity. That is also focused by her. Uh, and in the face of assimilation and cultural erasure, we try to erase uh, the tribal community from the face of the earth, right? But these people, they try to preserve their community, and that is also celebrated by Mahasweta Devi. And she explores forms of resistance, including grassroots movements, protests, and acts of defiance as communities strive to assert their autonomy and dignity. They try hard. What happened in Manipur? That is one of the examples for this um, resistance, okay, and cultural identity and human. She focuses on human rights and social justice through her works. Throughout her writings, Devi advocates for human rights. Okay, see, if I am a human, I deserve to live freely. That is focused by Mahasweta Devi, and I am okay. I deserve to live in a society where justice is preserved, and drawing attention to the violations and atrocities committed against marginalized groups. Okay, in one of her short stories, you could have seen read some of her books. Okay, but if you are not introduced to Magasweta Devi, you can read her works. They are really beautiful, in which you can see people, even a old woman goes to a pond to get fish, uh, but because of her uh, poor eyesight, no, she gets a snake and she takes it to home to cook. Okay, so they live in utter poverty. So she focuses on the violations. They are not given in one of her short stories. She focuses on how the tribal people are not given the ration that is allocated by the government, by the dominant group. Okay, so she talks about widely about the violations and atrocities committed against them. She calls for solidarity and collective action. uh, she has lots of individuals in her writings who fight for the solidarity and collective, I mean, for solidarity of the society. And they combat, these individuals know, they combat just injustice and inequality, and emphasizing their importance of empathy, compassion, and solidarity in building a more equitable society. There are few of her works focus on these subaltern themes. Uh, the first one, Mother of 1084. Uh, this novel revolves around a mother's search for the truth behind her son's involvement in a Naxalite movement and his subsequent death at the hands of the police. It delves into themes of political activism, state violence, and the impact of socio-political movements on families. How the socio-political movements impact the families, the peace of a family. Okay, it is a most widely read works of Mahasweta Devi. Um, it was written during the height of the Naxalite agitation. Okay, so it focuses on how brutally how the Naxalite agitation was brutally repressed by the West Bengal government, leading to the widespread murder of young rebels across the state. So there were so many young rebels were murdered by the government, that is focused by Mahasweta Devi in her novel Mother of 1084. 1084 is nothing but the number which is given to this lady's son's corpse, okay, after the killing of her son. So this novel focuses on the trauma of a mother who awakens one morning to the shattering news. Okay, somebody knocks the door and tells her that her son is lying dead in the police morgue. Okay, so he is just reduced to number 1084, corpse number 1084. So far, so many people, so many youngsters were killed. Okay, so his number is 1084. After the killing of that boy, he's called 1084. Okay, so through her struggle to understand his revolutionary commitment as an Naxalite, she recognizes her own alienation, and as a woman and a wife from the complacent, hypocritical, and corrupt feudal society her son had fiercely rebelled against. It is a corrupted society. It is a hypocritical society. So, against this, her son gave his life. That is what she talks. And Mahasweta Devi's best known novel, okay, 1084, Mother of 1084, is given in a review. Okay, it is spoken in a review as in the original is a heartbreaking and yet coldly analytical story of a loving mother who is suddenly informed of her grown-up son's death, crisp and incisive in capturing the thought process of a generation and the turmoil in the cozy construct of the middle class family. Mother of 1084 is still a truly moving human document. Okay, and another work of Mahasweta Devi, Draupadi, it is a most celebrated works. It's a powerful short story that portrays the struggle of Dopti Mechan. Okay, so Draupadi is one of the tale of a haunting tale of a young tribal woman. Okay, so um, in this, the protagonist, right, she is ripped off her clothes and she is raped by many men. Okay, um, her she bleeds, okay, because of the violence that is done to her. It is in one of the tormented situations, the protagonist speaks like this. I quote from this work of Mahasweta Devi, Draupadi. There isn't a man here that I should be ashamed. She just takes off her clothes and walks in the middle of men, okay? At the middle of men, the soldiers, and people feel that she has become a mad, okay? But Draupadi shakes with laughter and in a terrifying voice. She is emanating from her bleeding lips, okay? And asks, see, what is the use of the cloths when I am raped multiple times? Okay, there isn't a man here that I should be ashamed. She says, I will not let you put my cloth on me. What more can you do? Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me. She asks. Okay, so she pushes her mangled breast on the militants. Okay, and for the first time, the general of the particular troop is afraid to stand before an unarmed target. okay, terribly afraid. Though he is a commander of a particular troop, he is becoming really, his life is threatened in front of this woman who doesn't care about her physical subjugation. Okay, and her breast stories, Mahasweta Devi's breast stories, this is a collection of short stories, explores various dimensions of women's experiences, particularly those from marginalized communities. Through stories like Draupadi, Breast Giver, and Behind the Bodice, Devi addresses the themes of female agency, exploitation, and resilience. And one of her most celebrated works, Choti Munda and His Arrow. This is a novel actually. It depicts the struggles of Choti Munda, a tribal leader, as he confronts the forces of modernization and exploitation that threaten his community's way of life. It explores the themes of land rights, cultural identity, and resistance against hegemonic forces. Okay. So her stories are in one of the reviews given for Choti Munda and his arrows. It is given in the Hindu. Okay, I quote the Hindu. Her stories of the subaltern will live forever as long as there is oppression in the world, and and the poorest of poor need a voice. In today's atmosphere of growing intolerance, it is imperative to read her work and remind ourselves of her lifelong fight for those who are sought to be silenced. So, this was given in one of the reviews in the Hindu. Okay. Next, we move on to the celebrated writer Arundhati Rai. Yes. Okay, so Arundhati Roy's works are marked by their exploration of various subaltern themes that you know, often centering around social, political, and environmental issues in India. Some of the key subaltern themes I have listed out here. The first one is caste discrimination and Dalit rights. Okay, Roy frequently addresses the pervasive caste system in India, right? And the discrimination faced by Dalits. Formerly, they were known as untouchables. We know that. She critiques the entrenched social hierarchies and exposes the systematic oppression and violence experienced by Dalit communities. And the next theme that is focused by Arundhati Rai in her writings is marginalization of indigenous peoples. Okay, Roy's works highlight the struggles of indigenous people, particularly in regions affected by large scale development projects and resources extraction. Okay, she examines the displacement, dispossession, and loss of livelihoods experienced by tribal communities as their lands are encroached upon by corporations and state policies. And another theme focused by Arundhati Rai in her writings is environmental degradation and ecological justice. Okay, so when there comes a large scale development projects, okay, such as dams and mining, the environmental issues arise, right? She exposes the devastating ecological impacts, such as impacts of the projects, okay, the developmental projects. She not only focuses on the ecological impacts, she focuses on how these animals, not only animals, but also the people, those who live there, okay, how they are driven out of that particular place. Okay, so she exposes the devastating ecological impacts of such projects on local communities, forests, and ecosystems, and advocating for ecological justice. See, we fight for social justice, but Roy fights for ecological justice also and sustainable development. See, if you want to construct a dam, construct it in such a way you preserve the forest also. She advocates that through her writings. Sustainable development. She focuses on the sustainable development also. And the next theme focused by Roy in her writings is globalization and neoliberalism. So she focuses on the effects of globalization and neoliberal economic policies on marginalized communities in India. She interrogates the inequalities perpetuated by capitalist systems and the exploitation of labor, resources, and land for profit, often at the expenses of the poor and disenfranchised. Okay, so she interrogates, she questions the inner inequality that is perpetuated by the capitalist system. See, in no way these people, the oppression can be removed from the society because they are perpetuated by the capitalist system, she says. And we have gender inequality and women's right in her writings. Okay, we can see widely spoken in her writings. Okay, she addresses gender inequality and the struggles faced by women, particularly those from marginalized backgrounds. She explores issues such as domestic violence, patriarchy, and intersectionality of gender with caste and class oppression. And she focuses on the state violence and militarization also, right? Um, Yes, she critiques human rights abuses, state sponsored violence, and the erosion of civil liberties in the name of national security. How people are taken and killed. Okay, see, she focuses on all those things. So, her novels, God of Small Things, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, and her collection of essays, The Algebra of Injustice, Infinite Injustice, right? So, they serve as a powerful vehicle for raising awareness about these subaltern themes and advocating for social change, justice in India and beyond. Not only in India, she fights, she advocates justice for the entire world, we can say. And yes, her novel, The God of Small Things, is a novel that delves deeply into themes of social hierarchy, oppression, and the subaltern experience in India. While the novel primarily focuses on the lives of the twins Esther and Rahel and their family in Kerala, it intricately views in the experiences of the characters from marginalized communities and explores their struggles against the dominant social order. Okay, she focuses some of the key points are the themes, subaltern themes that are discussed in God of Small Things are caste oppression, which is faced by Veluta, the untouchable or Dalit. Okay, um, because he is forbidden the relationship with Ammu, right? Because Ammu belongs to the upper caste, the Syrian Christian family. So Veluta is not allowed to talk to Ammu. So it reflects the society shaped taboos and consequences of crossing caste boundaries. And colonial legacy is also focused by Arundhati Rai in her The God of Small Things. Gender inequality, both Ammu and Baby Kochama, both women face social constraints and patriarchal norms that limit their agency and perpetuate their subordination within the family and the society at large. Yes, both Ammu and Baby Kochama, they face gender inequality in The God of Small Things. And we can see the marginalization of indigenous communities in uh, The God of Small Things. The character of Veluta, belonging to the Paravan community, represents the struggles of Adivasi people who are often exploited for cheap labor and denied basic rights and dignity. They are denied their basic rights. Okay, they will be given less amount when they go for work. And we can see the resistance and subversion also in the God of Small Things. Okay, despite their marginalized status, characters in the novel, they find ways to resist and subvert oppressive structures. Okay, Veluta's involvement in political activism is an example for this resistance and subversion. And we have narrative subversion also in the novel God of Small Things. Okay, what is narrative subversion? She she subverts the literary conventions and challenges dominant narratives. Okay, she infuses the Malayalam slang with her non-linear storytelling and disrupts the traditional power dynamics of language and narrative. See, she challenges the dominant narrative and also the traditional power of dynamics of languages, challenged by her infusion with Malayalam in her novel The God of Small Things. Next, we move on to Bama. Okay, Bama, as we all know, she is a Dalit writer. Yes. So she is a feminist and also works extensively to explore the themes of subalterns, particularly focusing on the experiences of Dalit women in South India. Some of the key subaltern themes in Bama's writing includes caste discrimination and Dalit identity, gender inequality and patriarchy, marginalization and resistance, cultural identity and community solidarity, education and empowerment, religious and spiritual resistance. Um, Here we can see in her work Karukku, right? Karukku. Some of her notable works are Karukku, Sangati, Vanmam, which is translated as the oppression. Okay, offer poignant insights into the lived experiences of Dalit women in South India and have made significant contributions to subaltern literature by amplifying their voices. She has amplified, that is what Spivak said in her works, right? In her work, Can the Subaltern Speak? We have to help them to amplify their voice. So, Bama has rightly done her work as a Dalit writer by amplifying their voices and shedding light on the struggle for justice, equality, and dignity. Okay, so Karukku is Bama's autobiographical novel that we all know, which is often considered as a groundbreaking work in Tamil literature. We should accept it. The book recounts Bama's experiences growing up as Dalit in Christian woman, Dalit as a Dalit Christian woman in a rural Tamil Nadu village. Okay, it delves deep into the intersectionality of caste, class, and um, gender question, shedding light on the discrimination faced by Dalits within the church and broader in society also. Uh, it explores Obama's journey towards self acceptance and empowerment through education and activism. I quote from mm, yeah, from Bama's Karukku. I quote from Karukku. One day I went with Party to the Naikar house after she had finished all her filthy chores. Party placed the vessel that she had brought with her by the side of the drain. The Naikar lady came out with her leftovers, leaned out from some distance and tipped them into Party's vessel and went away. Her vessel, it seemed, must not touch Parties. It would be polluted. These people are the Maharajas who feed us our rice. Without them, how will we survive? Have not they been upper caste from generation to generation, and have not we been lower caste? Can we change this? So she questions through her writing, Karuku. Okay, she analyzes various incidents and events that questions the upper caste people for their rights of their own people. Mama's grandmothers worked as servants in her Naika families under pathetic conditions. Even the small child there would call her grandmothers by their names. They were treated as unwanted garbage in the house of Naikas. So naturally, such humiliations provoked Bama to raise voice against these caste people. As a little girl, she had no alternative than bury the spark of protest and anger in her mind, which in due course was developed into extinguishable fire. Okay, yes, and she widely talks about intersectionality. Okay, how these Dalit women they undergo multiple layers of discrimination and exclusions from the society. Okay, not only from the dominant caste system, caste communities, but also within their own communities, the Dalit women are excluded. Okay, even in their family, they are not treated properly. This intersectional lens allows Bama to depict the complex realities. See, the Dalit women, their realities is such a complex one. Okay, because they undergo multi-layer of discrimination. Okay, so um, they live under various forms of oppression. Okay, and she focuses on the dominant discourses. Okay, she actually critiques about the dominant discourses through Karukku. Bama offers a critique of dominant social, religious, and cultural discourses that perpetuate caste-based discrimination and marginalization. She exposes the hypocrisy also. Okay, and she focuses on the empowerment and resistance of the Dalit women through her novel Karukku. She highlights the moments of empowerment and resistance. She portrays the resilience and strength of Dalit women who challenge oppressive norms, assert their agency, and strive for self determination. And she focuses on education, which is a key tool for empowerment. She mostly focuses on the education, okay, in her through her writings. How education helps them to empower themselves and enable the individuals to confront injustice. Okay, only through education we can confront the injustice. And she also uses the linguistic subversion in her novel. Okay, she incorporates elements of spoken Tamil and draws on oral traditions, folklore, and idioms specific only to Dalit culture. Okay, these are her inclusion in her narrative. Okay, so she subverts the linguistics through her novels, through her narratives. Okay, so she through this subversion, she challenges the dominance of standardized or elite forms of language. This linguistic subversion serves to assert Dalit identity also. Okay, Dalit identity, because she has used some of the specific idioms that are uh, used in Dalit culture. Okay, so through including all these idioms, actually she reclaims the space, okay, within the literary landscape for the marginalized voice. This is what Spivak also focused, right? See, bring out their voice to the center. So when you include these idioms used by Dalits in your novel, then ultimately you are reclaiming the space in her, I mean, reclaiming the space for the marginalized voices or for the silenced voices. Okay, so overall, Karukku embodies the spirit of subaltern literature by centering the perspectives of marginalized communities. She is trying to centralize um, the sufferings of women in her novels. Okay, so she continues to uh, voice out the poor treatment of Dalits. Okay, so next comes The writer, Indian writer Munshi Premchand. Munshi Premchand. Some of her popular themes are rural poverty and social injustice, caste discrimination and social hierarchies, gender inequality and women's empowerment, exploitation of labor, education and social mobility, humanism and empathy are focused by Munshi Premchand. So some of his famous writings, okay, Godon, The Gift of a Cow. Godon is it is one of his acclaimed novels, okay, addressing the social economic struggles of farmers and peasants in rural India during the pre-independence era. Okay, uh, the novel portrays the exploitation and poverty faced by farmers. The oppressive land revenue system also is focused by Munshi Premchand in Godon. And another work of Munshi Premchand, Nirmala. This novel explores the plight of women in early 20th century in Indian society, particularly focusing on issues such as child marriage, dowry, and gender discrimination. It follows a story of a young bride who becomes a victim of social customs and familial pressures, shedding light on the patriarchal structures that oppress women and limit their agency. Okay, so and another work of Premchand, Seva Sadan, The House of Service, which is roughly translated into English as The House of Service, is a novel that delves into the lives of courtesans, highlighting the exploitation and marginalization faced by women in the profession. Premchand critiques the moral hypocrisy of society. See, we live in a hypocritical world, right? So he focuses on the moral hypocrisy of society and challenges the conventional notions of morality and respectability. And he advocates for the rights and dignity of women, okay, that especially the marginalized women, uh, those who are marginalized by their profession. Okay, and one of his yes, novels Karma Bhumi. Okay, it is set against the backdrop of Indian independence movement. Karma Bhumi explores the themes of social reform and nationalism and the struggles of marginalized communities. Okay, so and overall, the portrayal of the psychological impact of being a subaltern in Indian English fiction is multifaceted and often serves as a lens through which authors explore themes of identity, oppression, resistance, and resilience. Okay, so and the another notable writer is Urvasi Butalia. Okay, this is one of the most powerful text, okay, of the subaltern literature, the other side of silence, the other side of silence. The full title of this novel is The Other Side of Silence, Voices from the Partition of India by Urvashi Butalia, is a book that delves into the partition of India in 1947. It explores the experiences and narratives of those affected by one of the most significant events in South Asian history. Okay, so it echoes how women are raped, murdered during the time of partition. Her book focuses on the alternative history of women during the partition, uh, how women sufferings are not noted down by the community at all. Okay, and she focuses on the marginalization of women. Okay, so it emphasizes on the experiences of women during the partition, highlighting their unique vulnerabilities and struggles because they were not given even a place to live. Okay, so and she focuses on the voices of the displaced. Um, this partition, right? This resulted in massive refugee movements and the uprooting of communities from one place to another. She amplifies the voice of those who were forcibly displaced from their homes. Okay, people, the Muslims were asked to go to India, and the Hindus were asked to the Muslims were asked to go to Pakistan, and the people, the Hindus were those who lived in Pakistan were asked to go to India. So this displacement happened, right, during the partition. So she focuses on all those things, and complexity of identity is also focused by Urvashi Butalia, because how these people, right, religious binaries were there, and she explores the diverse linguistic and cultural regional identities that existed within these newly formed nations. She highlights on how the linguistic identity were given importance, and the cultural identities, even the religious identities, were given importance in a particular piece of land. She highlights the experience of minority communities such as Sheikhs, Hindus, Muslims, whose voices are often marginalized within dominant historical narratives. Okay, and she focuses on memory and trauma also through her the other side of violence, uh, silence. Okay, yes, through oral histories and personal accounts, Butalia examines the long-lasting impact of the partition on individual and collective memory. She explores how trauma of partition continues to resonate across generations. Even now, they feel uh, the trauma. Okay, generation after generation, and how it shaped the personal identities. Okay, how it affects the trauma uh, that affects in shaping the personalities also and personal identity, how it affects the collective unconscious of a particular ethnic community. Okay, particular ethnic group. This book also addresses the challenges of remembering and narrating traumatic experiences, particularly for survivors who have been silenced or marginalized. Okay, so overall, the other side of silence engages with subaltern themes by centering the voices and experiences of who have been historically marginalized and overlooked in mainstream narratives of the partition. So, to conclude, Indian English fiction offers powerful insights into the various forms of trauma faced by subaltern communities in India, shedding light on their struggles, resilience, and ongoing quest for justice and healing. Through nuanced storytelling and empathetic characterizations, these novels challenge readers to confront the harsh realities. Through these writings, now we come to know the harsh realities of inequality and the oppression, while also highlighting the strength and resilience of marginalized. We not only see the inequality, oppression, but also how these people, those who are oppressed, how they try to come out of their marginalization. Okay, how they try to assert their identities. That is also focused by these writers through their works. Okay, there is something called displacement. Okay, displacement uh, that happens through this being subaltern. Okay, so uh, because of forced migration and partition and rural urban migration, because of internal displacement due to conflict and violence, displacement due to development and projects. Okay, exile and diaspora, these things happen because of the um, I mean displacement of subaltern characters can they undergo these kind of displacements in their life. Okay, so Indian English fiction often portrays the displacement caused by historical events such as the partition of India in 1947, which led to the mass migration of people across newly formed borders. These characters are uprooted from their homes, separated from their families, and forced to rebuild their lives in unfamiliar and hostile environments. For example, Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children and Kushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan are examples of novels that explore the trauma and dislocation caused by partition that we know. And many subaltern characters in Indian English fiction are displaced from rural villages to urban centers. Okay, for example, Aravind Adiga's The White Tiger and Roginton Mysteries, A Fine Balance, they depict the struggles of characters who migrate from rural areas to cities like Mumbai in pursuit of better life. And subaltern characters are often displaced with their own countries due to conflict, communal violence, and state oppression. So, one of the key objectives of subaltern literature is to empower marginalized voices, facilitate social change, and promote greater understanding and empathy across different social groups. So, it provides a platform for individuals to express their lived experiences, cultural identities, and struggles for social justice and equality. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your detailed explanation on subaltern studies. Now we have question section. Participants, if you have any queries, you can either comment it on the chat box or you can directly ask.
Any queries? Sorry, I took a lot of time.
The session was so interesting, ma'am. So I think nobody noticed the clock.
That's a big compliment, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, shall we wind up?
Shall we wind it up?
Yes,
As
participants,
all
if you have
this,
any questions, you can post it in the group.
You can unmute
as
and
all
speak.
this comes to an end, I now request Professor Shubha, Department of English, to deliver the vote of thanks. Shubhaman, please unmute your.
Okay, sorry. Good evening. I quote Martin Luther's words: occasionally in life there are those moments of unutterable fulfillment which cannot be completely explained by those symbols called words. Their meaning can only be articulated by the inaudible language of the heart, saying thank you. I am very much humbled and honored to be the one making the closing of today's function by proposing vote of thanks. I, on behalf of the entire fraternity of Mar Gregorius College of Arts and Science, I extend sincere thanks. I express my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Dr. A. Priya. Ma'am, your exceptional presentation, your insights and expertise made a significant impact and we are grateful to your valuable contribution. Thank you again for sharing your knowledge and making our event a success. I mention my deep sense of gratitude to Professor G. Prada, in charge, Department of English, and my department faculties for their hard work, dedication, and support for conducting this event in a successful way. I thank all the participants for their enthusiastic participation in attending this faculty development program. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I request everyone to fill the feedback.
Thank you, Pradha, ma'am. Can I leave the session, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for joining and thanks for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.